Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
Why am I here?
You're gonna give up on me as a friend one day. I really never thought we'd get to this point, but you really, really will give up on me as a friend one day. What was my message to you? Do you want to record tonight? I know we're supposed to go tomorrow, but if you can go tonight, I'll go whenever. I'll stay up as late as you want. And you're like, yeah, I guess. Like 10:30? That's really late, right? I was like, yeah, cool. That's whatever.
Okay. Wednesdays are the only day I have to close. I get to finish work early every other day of the week.
Oh, that's your work's fault. Tell them to change it. Sunday, Wednesday. Gallant fired on a Wednesday. We got to record on a Wednesday.
Thanks for nothing, Vegas.
You know,
or maybe thanks for everything, Vegas.
Yeah, I would take pushing up the day we were planning to record this week early, or pushing it up sooner rather than missing the news and having to wait until Sunday to talk about this. So much better this way. We should count our blessings. I guess we got lucky. There's gambling puns in here, but there's not. At 10:09 p.m., which is the time that we're recording this, I'm completely...
Gallant just rolled snake eyes. The Red Wings might push their chips all in.
Oh, that's not bad. I might use that for the episode description. Put a pin in that. I like that. Okay, welcome to another episode of Winged Wheel Podcast After Dark. I'm Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad Crisco.
You could have then said, at that moment, I'm tired. I would have allowed it then.
Yeah, no, I've used that one too many times.
I tweeted out when I convinced you, and then poor Mel was going to have to go to bed very quietly as we're still recording.
I don't think she's going to be concerned about her going to bed quietly. I think the more upsetting part is us talking while she's trying to sleep.
Oh, she sleeps like the dead. Like, it's disturbing.
How do I get that superpower? Because you know when people ask, like, if you could have any one superpower, what would it be? Would you want to fly, be invisible, be able to teleport? No, I just want to be able to sleep uninterrupted.
Right?
That's all I want.
I would love to be a talented sleeper.
My superpower that I want is to be able to sleep and only be awoken in case of an emergency.
Oh,
the house is on fire, the kid's choking, someone's breaking in. Other than that, leave me the
Gerard
hell alone.
Gallant gets fired from the Vegas Golden Knight. Those things. I actually regularly wake up Mel for like important things or like unimportant things. I'll be scrolling on my phone and I'll be like, hey, Mel, there's an article showing about a new ink that they use in tattoos that stops them from bleeding in watercolors. And she's like, why'd you wake me up for this? I'm like, because I know you'll fall back asleep right away. So I feel no guilt. This is what you get. And she does. Yeah. Anyhow, once I confirmed it with her and confirmed it with you, I tweeted this out, but it's worth repeating. You are a father of two, and even worse than that, someone who doesn't drink coffee. And you've agreed that we should record a day sooner than expected at well past Evan's bedtime.
Yeah, I won't drink coffee, but the last few weeks I've been seriously contemplating hard drugs or alcoholism.
No.
We'll see how it goes.
All right. First of all, if you're going to choose between like hard drugs and alcohol, take the hard drugs. Okay. Right.
Less beer gut.
Yeah. But also, the world runs on methamphetamines. Let's just be real with that.
This is true. Do I
go
Adderall or do I just go something more fun?
I feel like you're making a lot of assumptions about Adderall here. Oh, if you can't tell that we're wired. Okay.
I'm literally trying to coordinate my day tomorrow, too, as we're doing this. Because
I was wondering why you were staring at your lap. It's very evident of you.
I got to pick a dude up at a time for a thing tomorrow, speaking of hard drugs. And
that was pretty suspicious. What time are you going? How much room do you have? I'll come.
This is actually going to be the most Canadian statement ever. I'm literally coordinating with a goalie when I have to pick him up to take him to hockey. Because goalies get preferential treatment.
We're stopping at undisclosed, unnamed coffee location on the way to pick up some ice caps, maybe a double-double.
Yes.
Also,
Crystal will have that covered because we have to take separate cars tomorrow. So
she still loves those ice caps, eh?
It's horrifying.
They're not good.
I calculated how much she spends on them in a year.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that.
It's well into the four figures, Ryan. They're $3 and something per. She gets one every goddamn morning. 365 days in the year, Ryan. Do the math.
That's $3 million. Oh, man. All right. I think we break right into it. I don't think there's any skipping around this. We got to start with it, right?
Yes, because we got to talk at length about the thing that almost assuredly isn't going to happen.
Gerard Gallant fired as head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights and immediately replaced by Pete DeBoer.
Out of everybody who's available to replace him, I don't necessarily disagree with the choice of Pete DeBoer, but my main thought about Gerard Gallant being fired is why?
Vegas is currently, let's see, 3 points out of first place in the Pacific.
More importantly, they're tied for the last playoff spot.
No, they are.
I checked the standings this morning. Has something changed?
Winnipeg has jumped them.
Oh.
Or Winnipeg and Vancouver both have the same amount of points with 2 fewer games played.
Okay, so they tied in points and they don't hold the tiebreaker at the moment.
Yeah, it's I don't even know where to begin with this. There's the first chunk of this is going to be talking about how stupid this firing was, and it was. I need you start this off.
The analytics say the Vegas Golden Knights are an elite team that are being dragged down by poor goaltending performances this year. Our friend of the podcast, Jeff Merrick, had a great line on Hockey Central at noon a few weeks ago, or a few days ago. Only one coach has been fired in the last few years where the team's goalie's save percentage was over 900. Mm-hmm. So that tells you a lot about how NHL GMs evaluate coaches, which is dumb, wrong, and bad. And they're just outside of a playoff spot, which isn't good. But when you factor in that they're getting poor goaltending, have very good metrics, and this team has existed for 2.5 years. If we take the last 2 seasons away, and we jump back to summer 2017, and I tell you that in 2020 the Vegas Golden Knights will be legitimately battling for a playoff spot, how happy do you think Knights fans and Knights ownership would be?
They'd be thrilled with their head coach Gerard Gallant.
Yeah, Gerard Gallant's mistake here was he set his own bar too high. That is literally why he got fired.
It's legitimately like asking for more work at work, and the moment you need to slow down, they fire you.
Yeah.
I want to look up the Vegas Golden Knights overall record over the past 2.5 seasons.
It's near the top of the league. Spoiler.
Vegas, you mentioned the metrics. Vegas measures like top 5-ish at least in most metrics. You want to know a metric they're near the bottom of the league in?
Save percentage.
Besides that, PDO, which measures
luck.
I know. There's
save percentage brings down the PDO. Yada, yada,
there's some ins and outs to PDO, and it's not everyone's favorite. But for a team that's shooting well, creating plays well, isn't saving the puck, you think? And the worst part is the regression to the mean is just going to bounce Pete DeBoer way up.
Pete DeBoer is getting a raise. He's getting the Jack Adams. He's going to get everything. It's not that Pete DeBoer's a bad coach. I'm sure he'll do a fine job. He was one of the candidates in the summer I was hoping Detroit would take a long look at. Now I very much narrowed my focus down to one, but it's... What was the stat Dimitri posted today that just tweaked me? There have been since November 20th, there have been 7 coaches fired and there have been 5 Detroit Red Wing wins. Ryan, that was almost 2 months ago. We are literally 5 days short of 2 months ago.
Oh, Christ. You're talking about a guy who, in the first 2 seasons of the Vegas Golden Knights existing, won 51 and 43 games, respectively.
Oh, my God. And they fired him.
And they fired him. 100. Oh my God. What did I say last podcast? I said the Red Wings, with regard to Jeff Blashill, yes, depending on, no matter which side of the coin you fall on, a lot of us can agree on the same thing, which is that there's not really anybody out there who would warrant jumping away from Blashill right now once you consider all the context. There's no like Gerard Gallant that's out there again, because that's only going to happen once in a blue moon.
3 days. You owe Gerard an apology. You did this.
I'm so sorry. Ryan Marc-Andre Fleury Hanna is my new nickname.
Yeah, you did this. So you're going to be Gerard Gallant's biggest enemy. But if he gets hired to Detroit, Red Wings fans need to shower you with gifts and.
Yeah, you're welcome, everyone, if he comes to Detroit. Oh, I just don't like it. You're not often right now with the way hockey media works. You don't often see the eye test in the old boys club and then the modern NHL and analytics crowd galvanized behind one idea, which is what? Everybody agrees that this was brutal. And then I had a thought. I was like, this doesn't make sense. There's something else here. Maybe this is one of those things.
We're waiting for the Bill Peters to come out in this situation.
And then I can't remember who it was. John Shannon, maybe, I don't know, tweeted, this is purely a hockey. It's purely a hockey decision. And I went, oh, okay, they're just stupid. Yeah, got it. And I have so much respect for McCrimmon and McPhee. I don't agree with all their decisions, but look at the team that they've built in Vegas. Phenomenal. And this just lends so much more credence to the fact that they wrote a lot of this is them riding the wave of A, an excellent coach, and B, the wealth of draft picks and team resources that they got when they entered this league because of how the NHL created the expansion rules this time around, which was like the inverse of when the Minnesotas and the Columbuses entered.
Imagine how this regime's gonna react the first time Vegas is like actually bad. Like, if they lose Marchessault, Pacioretty, or Stastny, or whoever, and they're actually bad, man, they might fire the players.
I actually feel very bad for Vegas fans. I really do. I don't like, they have their rivalries with the Pacific Division, their Pacific Division foes, and that's great. Like, I think that's good for hockey. They, as a fan base, they have no black marks. They have no like extremely hateable player. There's nothing like that. Like, everyone was cheering for them in the Cup Finals in their first season. They got laughed at when they blew that lead against San Jose last playoffs, the 5-minute major. Like, that's all well and good, but like, people generally like Vegas fans, and I think they've been a great fan base to enter this league. They've been fun. They've been well informed. I think their social media manager is the only person that people really have any qualms with. And they very rightly are shocked and angry online right now. They are not thrilled. Didn't Gallant call Pete DeBoer a clown, now that I think about it?
Yeah, the one positive about this is that's a straight power move. Just taking your rivals, your coach's rival, and the team you have the biggest rivalry with, just taking their coach. Like, yeah, you got rid of DeBoer? Yeah, he's ours now.
What? Is the NHL drunk this year?
It's 7 coaching firings since November 20th.
This is a
7. And a GM who is by all accounts doing a good job. This has become such a reactionary league. Again, I said and still think that the Red Wings, if they make a coaching change, it will not happen till the offseason. I wish that wasn't the case, but I'm almost appreciative that Yzerman isn't this stupidly reactionary. Like, he's being patient with everything. And he's only been here for 8 months.
Yep. Absolutely everything. And because he knows, I don't know if you guys have heard this before, this rebuild is going to take time.
And weird things happen in the NHL. Don't be too reactionary. The only reason I'm on the pro, if we want to switch Gallant for Blashill right now, do it, is because I would have been on for this change a year ago. It's not even the Red Wings, as bad as they are this year. If you look at Dom Loose Chickens,
someone's going to clip that and they're going to tweet at him and he's going to tear you apart.
Oh, no. I've seen many people call him that.
Really?
Dude, Matt Larkin from THN literally referenced it like 3 days ago.
Oh, so I'm the asshole.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Anyways, because I'm not trying to pronounce a last name that has that many S's, C's, and Z's in order, okay? But anyways, Dom Luszczyszyn, whatever, put his ranking, like he had an article about what teams are going to progress and regress or, yada, yada, yada as the season goes on. Detroit, by all accounts, was way worse than they should have been according to their metrics. Mm-hmm. The first half of the season for the Red Wings was an outlier. As bad as they are, as bad as they will be, as bad as we know they are, statistically they shouldn't be that bad. So it would have been perfectly understandable for Yzerman to just go, okay, that's it. We're done. We're blowing everything up. But he recognizes, you know what? That was weird. Let's let it ride a little bit. And then maybe he reevaluates in the offseason and goes, yeah, you know what? Actually, no. Even beyond that, Blashill is bad. We'll get rid of him. Or, you know what? You look at X, Y, and Z and we'll keep him around. This wasn't his fault. That wasn't his fault. Like Gerard Gallant, not his fault. He couldn't get a save. Although Bernier putting in 907s might have been the only reason Blashill still has a job. Who knows?
Which is a statement because 907 is not a pretty number.
No, and on this team, it should put him in Vezina contention. But yeah, so I appreciate Yzerman for that. That all being said, if I'm Yzerman, I'm replacing Blashill with Gallant tomorrow. He has been the best coach in the NHL for, at the very least, the last 2.5 years. Barry Trotz makes an argument there. Nobody else is in the conversation.
Okay, I want to feed off that conversation, but I have pulled up some stats. These are 5-on-5 numbers. Shot attempt share for Vegas, 4th best in the NHL. Expected goals share, 2nd best in the NHL. Scoring chance shares, so both normal, like all scoring chances and high danger scoring chances, both of those are top 5 in the NHL.
And they fired him.
Look, I actually had a hard time labeling where I fell in all of this because one, I think we as a podcast are trying to recognize our responsibility to not just drive our opinions through an argument and talk about an argument with the listeners to make sure you guys have an opportunity to make your own informed opinions and not just listen to whatever we regurgitate. Like we're not telling you what to feel, but over time we kind of landed on how we feel about Blashill. And my mind was that I haven't been impressed, but there's enough plausible deniability. There's enough, what's it called when you have to beyond a
reasonable doubt?
Yeah, when you're trying to convict someone, my brain's fried right now. There's enough reasonable doubt there to say that his performance isn't because of him as a coach, but at least somewhat because his talent pool has been an actual pile of primordial sludge since he started it in the NHL. It's actually kind of impressive. It was the remnants of previous good teams that he made the playoffs even once. But with how this season has gone and especially how bad it's been, and just when you break into the granular stuff like non-changing systems, the way he handles or at least handled in the past young players in their deployment, the line shuffling, the refusal to change even in the face of everything falling apart around him. It came to me the day where my most reasonable conclusion was he's in on the tank. And then I thought, oh man, it's so much simpler than that. I just don't think he's right for this team. If Yzerman kept him or keeps him and even extends him another contract, like picks up the option and picks up another contract and gives him an opportunity on the other side of this rebuild, I wouldn't be optimistic about it, but there would be enough there for me to say, yeah, okay, I can see why this is happening. It's not my favorite, but I can see why. All of that is superseded by how good of a coach Gerard Gallant is. All of that is out the window. Like you said, Brad, hire him tomorrow. Gerard Gallant is how I feel about when Taylor Hall is on the market. Oh, you have one of the best left wingers in the league? Yeah, forget where you're at. You try to trade for him. Like forget what your plans are for the season. If you have even a chance of making use of that guy, you trade for him. I saw something really funny today. Someone was like, well, you don't want the Red Wings to start winning now. I was like, oh, bro, yeah, no, Gerard Gallant's not winning a lot with this team. Nobody's winning a lot with this team.
They will win more with him. I can say that somewhat reasonably. they're not going to win enough to catch the teams ahead of them.
No.
We're at the point in the tank where I think I mentioned this on here before, where it's actually kind of nice because we can almost root for wins at this point because it's not going to really matter. They're 12 points behind 30th? You think a team that with this roster and Mantha out and Athanasiou out and now their starting goalie out for is going to make up 12 points? No. This team is going to finish last place. They could rattle off a 10-game winning streak at this point, and I think statistically they're still likely to be in last place.
I think if the Red Wings win their remaining games, they have, 35 games left, they'll finish with 97 points.
If they win every single game.
If they win every single remaining game. They'll finish with under 100 points.
Yeah, so there you go. Bring him on because the Red Wings are not catching anybody at this point. Not unless a team goes nuclear and does exactly what Detroit did in the first half in the second half, which isn't likely.
All right, let's rattle off some pros and cons to bringing on Gallant. Pro, you have an opportunity to add one of the best NHL coaches in hockey right now.
Who has a proven track record of taking a team with limited talent and making them very successful.
Or at least maximizing the talent that he has. Con, timing isn't ideal because there are still years left in this rebuild. Not years. And the NHL is not a place where coaches have long tenures anymore. Mm-hmm. So, Gerard Gallant will probably have to wait a few years before he can even see reasonable results from this. Pro, those years will be less painful under Gerard Gallant, quite possibly. Yeah, none of this is to be a guarantee. I know sometimes we have to qualify our statements. This is probably what we believe, but those years might be less painful. And if Gerard Gallant can get more out of this roster or change the way the team is run or, whatever part of coaching matters the most to you, then it'll suck a little less. Con, I don't know. He might not want to come to Detroit.
Pro, he's buddies with Yzerman.
I scored 30 goals, 4 years in a row on Yzerman's wing. Yzerman hired him when Yzerman was GM of the Canada World Cup team in 2007 as an assistant coach, which they won gold with, I believe. They have a proven history. They go way back as players. They go way back from a GM coach standpoint. They have a history. They're buddies. I don't know how good Yzerman's French is, but I believe he could pick up the phone and make a call right now.
So here's the question, because I want to get to a point you mentioned about it's going to take a long time for the rebuild. Let's assume reasonable best case scenario this offseason for the Red Wings. Let's assume Gallant comes in. Mm-hmm. Let's assume they win the draft lottery.
Okay.
Because those are both very reasonable things to happen, which would mean Steve Yzerman has to do one piece of heavy lifting. Let's say he signs a big free agent.
Yeah.
Just one. We're not going to go crazy. Let's assume he signs 0 other free agents, but he gets, we'll go with the one who's most rumored, Torrey Krug.
Okay.
So Satter comes up next year. We draft Lafreniere. He's in the lineup. We have Krug. We have Gallant. I don't think we finish bottom 5 next year.
I don't think that's a bottom 5 team.
No.
I don't think that's a top 16 team.
I don't think it's a playoff team, but I think based on how Veleno and Rasmussen and Seider perform, it could be damn close. Goaltending being the big asterisk, Bernier would have to play next year like he is this year.
What is with Gallant being fired for no reason? Like, not no reason, but like with Florida, like just so bizarre. With Vegas, just so bizarre. I don't understand how we're even talking about this. It's just so wild.
It makes no sense. Did Gallant make a pass at McPhee's wife or something? From a hockey standpoint, this is nonsensical, but this is the culture of the NHL. It's panicky, reactionary, and bad. Out of all the firings that have happened in the NHL this year, how many of them actually should have? Laviolette in Nashville? No, they were one of the best 5-on-5 teams in the league. They were just getting tanked by bad goaltending and poor special teams. Hines in New Jersey, yeah, they were underperforming. That's justifiable. Ray Shero in New Jersey, good God, no. Because again, I still justify every move he made in the offseason. You go back and do it again, despite how their seasons turned out.
Well, there's now with him clashing with the analytics team that they hired there. So.
Yeah, that's still dumb. Because remember how that worked out for Florida when you went too hard the one way. Who else has been fired? DeBoer in San Jose? Yeah, that shouldn't have happened. He's been one of the best coaches for 5 years. That doesn't change overnight. I know I'm forgetting other coaches.
I can just pull this up.
But it's a dumb reactionary league.
I legitimately believe that any team that's fired their coach, Jim Montgomery.
Yeah, that one, special circumstances, so that doesn't count. Babcock probably deserved to go. Bill Peters, again, circumstances dictated that, so it doesn't really count.
And that is all of them. I genuinely believe that with every coach fired, the team that has to then replace that coach should look at NHL or coaches outside of the NHL system. The recycling of coaches, yada, 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 old boys club, it needs to stop. That's why teams, I believe that's why these coaches have shorter shelf lives, because they're not getting the results from them anymore because the league has caught up to them and they refuse to change their ways. I think Gerard Gallant is not that. I think Gerard Gallant comes up above that. I think he supersedes all of that. He, in my mind, is that superstar. It's like Toronto throwing all their money at Babcock. At the time, it was the right move. It really was the right move for Toronto. In retrospect, yeah, it wasn't the best, but also at the time, any team in the league would have been lucky to have Babcock. You would have been hard pressed to find a detractor that wasn't a Red Wings fan that was jaded by.
If only we knew what was going on.
Well, even then, Red Wings fans warned Toronto that, Ron Hainsey would be playing 24 to 26 minutes a night, which I think literally was the case. So, still, that was the right move from Toronto. Could a potential Gallant hiring by whatever team picks him up turn out poorly and maybe he isn't all he's cracked out to be? Yeah, sure. But right now, by every measure, by every eye test, by every analytical assessment, oh God, hire this guy at all costs. If you're throwing out your 5-year plan with your coach, do it. If you're throwing out your plan with your coach to give him a chance on the other side of a rebuild because you're Steve Yzerman and you just came in as GM and there's no point in rocking that boat because it doesn't matter because your team sucks regardless, you still do it. That's how good Gerard Gallant is. I brought up the timing point on Twitter. I brought up a couple different things, and a lot of people rightly pointed out and made the argument. It doesn't matter. The timing is never going to be perfect. If it's Gerard Gallant's level and you perceive him to be that good of a coach, you do it. I think, obviously, this is on Yzerman's radar, very obviously. Will we have any indication of anything happening beforehand? Only if, our sources tip us, which hasn't happened because Yzerman is notoriously ironclad. It's on his radar. He's for sure thinking about it. I think there's 3 schools of thought here. 1, yes, Gallant's a good coach. That doesn't change my plan. I'm going to keep Blashill for now, and I'll worry about this later because the team is not good enough to warrant pulling in your coach of the future right now. 2, yes, Gallant is a good coach, but I want to do a full coaching search in the offseason when I don't pick up Blashill's extension. That includes looking at guys like Lane Lambert, maybe Ricard Gronberg, maybe Peter Laviolette, or before today, Pete DeBoer. Or 3, he's on the phone with Gallant's agent trying to assess interest.
Or tinfoil hat theory, he's waiting to see how Tampa Bay's season pans out because he's waiting on John Cooper.
Yeah, there's a lot of options here. But at the very least, you can guarantee that this is on his mind.
Oh, yeah, it has to be. A lot of things are on Stevie's mind right now. This poor guy has the hardest job in the NHL right now. Man, he's got to be all over the scouting department. He's got to be all over the free agent market. He's got to be all over the coaching market. He's got to be all over the trade market right now. If you're if you're Boston right now, do you even acknowledge your scouts exist? Do you even care? Yeah, get us some kids, whatever. I'm going to worry about who I can get at the deadline. Oh, we're going to trade this kid away. Who cares? Who cares? We got Chris Kreider. We're happy, right?
I don't know. Kyle Dubas is kind of a tough job. Literally nothing he does will be forgivable unless it's a cup. And even then, I think they might use it to bash him over the head with.
That's fair.
I think Ken Holland has a really tough job.
He's got Connor McDavid.
Yep. But
that trumps everything. When your starting point is Connor McDavid,
yeah, you don't get pity. He's not getting pity from me.
Yeah.
But when he doesn't win a cup with Connor McDavid, it will be used to hit him over the head with.
And he's just going to hold up all his cup rings and not give a crap.
Yzerman has the grace of being Steve Yzerman and possibly the most beloved NHL GM right now. And so he has the grace of patience from the fans who had no patience left to give. So it's tough. I don't envy being in any of these GM's shoes who are considering replacing their current coach with Gerard Gallant. New Jersey, I could see them picking him up.
Yeah. A lot of teams I could see picking him up.
I don't think Calgary or Dallas will do it. Their replacement coaches, their interim head coaches have been doing pretty well for them. There's a lot. There's a lot of competition. And that's another thing that we have to consider is through all of this conversation, we have to remember that Detroit is just one of many teams who are considering a coaching change at some point soon. And there's a lot of destinations that might seem more desirable for a coach looking to win. Because Gerard Gallant is a coach you have if you're trying to win a cup or win now. I don't know if a developing coach exists. I don't know if that's a real thing.
That whole thing gets overblown. We use it as a reference point, but realistically, this was a coach who was hired to develop an expansion team. Clearly, Vegas believed in his ability to develop players when they hired him, because you don't hire a coach that's not good at development to develop a frigging expansion team.
So what's really funny about all this timing is last night the Red Wings played the Islanders, and within 6 seconds it was like 5-0 or something stupid. It was like 2-0 within the first 32 seconds. The Red Wings actually ended up being blown out 8-2. We don't have to keep reiterating our thoughts about this team all season long, but I think it's worth reiterating one of these points right now, which is that we have landed on the same spot before the Gallant everything today. We landed on the same spot of like, yeah, I don't think we think Blashill is doing the best job, but at this point the roster in front of him is so bad that even if it's a little bit worse right now, so what? It's not worth rocking the boat because there's no one really out there that's worth making that change right now. You might differ from that actually a little bit than me. But that 8-2 loss was so bad where I actually thought, I didn't think there's any way Blashill would be fired this season, but there's only so many times that can happen, right?
They're still giving up 5 goals per game in about half of their games, which is staggering considering it's the middle of January. They'll string together a couple all right games, but they mostly beat bottom feeders. They beat Vegas once this year. They beat Boston this year. And I think every other win's come against a garbage team, at least the ones I can remember off the top of my head. They look like they have too many games where they look like they don't care. If you want to just get old school about it, this team looks like they've given up. They don't care. I mean, they don't compete. They don't. I don't know if that's just that could be a symptom of just poor systems slowing them down, because by every metric, the one thing everybody, even Jeff Blashill, can agree on is Detroit plays very low event hockey. Their whole strategy is to keep the game to as little shots as possible. For and against, doesn't matter. They want low event hockey, which strategically, with how the roster's built, might not be the worst thing in the world. But when you're playing a game, when you're coaching your team to play low event hockey, you still have to keep them motivated, because from a hockey player standpoint, that's boring. If I was on a roster, that is not the type of hockey I want to be played. So not that you can't, and not that it's completely devoid of offense, unlike the Red Wings. You have to be motivated, and that's on the coach. And this team's so, like you said, they were down, 2-0, 31 seconds into the game?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the coach's job to have them ready to go shift one. When a team comes out as flat as often as the Red Wings do, that's a symptom.
I have a very smart friend. She's brilliant, and she's incredibly good with analytics and incredibly good with code. And we've been kind of doing some brainstorming stuff. Most of it's her. She's doing literally almost all the legwork. I'm just applying some hockey context, which she honestly doesn't even really need. She's the cousin of an NHL player. She understands how hockey works. And I can't use the Red Wings as any frame of reference for trying to draw up these analytical charts or data points or graphics that I'm trying to generate, because they're so bad. Everything looks like it's broken. Everything I generate looks like it's broken. You want to know what the Red Wings goal differential is right now?
Minus 74.
Minus 81.
Oh my God, it starts with an 8 now.
Through 47 games. The next the next worst is minus 39. On average, the Red Wings, when they play a game, will lose that game 1.7 goals to 0. On average. Not their average loss. On average, any given game they play this year, they lose 1.7 to nothing. Are you... Minus 81. The next worst is negative 39. The next worst is negative 39. They are 42 goals worse than the next team. I can't draw up these charts because the line just sinks straight down. I feel bad for Prashant, who's trying to illustrate just how bad. And it's just like everyone in the fan base has already gotten it. They're like, yeah, it's bad. It's real bad. And it keeps getting worse. Also, you want to know the biggest travesty of the season? We missed when their goal differential was negative 69.
That's not nice.
What is Evan here for if he did not catch when the Red Wings goal differential was negative 69? That is literally his only job. That's the only thing I've ever expected from him on this podcast. Truly expected that he would be our sounding board, our siren, our alarm for when the Red Wings goal differential was negative 69. The good news is they might actually get to negative 420 this season. So hope remains.
Yeah, and this team is a dumpster fire, so that literally will be a 420 blaze it.
That's it. We can wrap up this episode now, right? We did well enough there.
Yeah,
that was good.
Just the title can be 420 blaze it, and then people have to listen all the way through to figure it out.
New listeners will be like, I thought this is about Gerard Gallant. I don't really.
Or new listeners are like, I thought this was about drugs. What the hell?
It kind of is, folks. We're just not. Well, actually, the beginning we talked explicitly.
They probably got 5 minutes into the episode, super excited.
Someone messaged. I think someone either messaged us or they tweeted at us. There's there's been a lot of swearing lately. Are you guys just tired? I was like, yeah, we generally try to keep that in line, but I think we're just worn out. That and Terry. We lost Terry.
Come on, Terry. And there's because the thing is, when you can only get so far in the thesaurus to describe how bad this team is before you have to start throwing curse words in front of the words that you find in the thesaurus to define this team. Because, terrible, bad, awful, horrendous eventually have to be effing horrendous to truly get the point across, right?
I don't know how many times we can say this, but I want to really keep coming back to it. You as a fan, remove all, you're a public figure in the Red Wings world. Remove all responsibility from this podcast or Twitter or anything where you're not worried about people's, influencing. You're not worried about Blashill seeing your tweets or your thoughts. What do you do if you're Yzerman with Gallant and Blashill right now?
The announcement would have already been made. I'd have mailed Gallant a check, say fill out what you feel is fair while I'm drafting up Blashill's notice. If that, I don't care if that sounds harsh. I mean, from a business standpoint, you do it. It'd be like if you're the Red Wings. Okay, let's assume you like Blashill as a coach. Okay, let's play that angle. We'll compare Jeff Blashill as a coach to Dylan Larkin as a player. If something happened where the Edmonton Oilers released Connor McDavid and to make cap room, you had to get rid of Dylan Larkin to make it happen, you still do it. You are not going to lose out on a Connor McDavid for the sake of a Dylan Larkin in the same way you're not going to lose out on a Gerard Gallant because of a Jeff Blashill. I don't care. If you like or dislike him as a coach, Gerard Gallant is the better option.
Do you take... Let's say Yzerman waits till the offseason. Do you take Gerard Gallant or John Cooper?
I would go with Gallant right now. It's not an easy decision, but again, with what Gallant was able to do with a relatively unskilled, air quotations, expansion team, and you look at the progression of nearly every player on that team under him, Marchessault got better. Smith got better. William Karlsson went from nobody to hero. Alex Tuch progressed. Eric Holla turned into a star before he got traded and hurt. Nate Schmidt, Shea Theodore. like across the board, everybody you would want to pan out on that team has. The Red Wings can't say that. And they've had higher potential players in their system that haven't reached it. So I think, given what Gallant did, he is the right choice, even if John Cooper is available, although I'd be thrilled with either.
Do you think there's any possibility, let's say we're operating in a world where Yzerman is trying to bring Gallant in. Do you think Yzerman, so as to not rock the boat, either A, has an arrangement with Gallant where, Gallant gets a company card and he says, go scout on our behalf and we'll make the hire in the offseason when Blashill's contract expires, or B, we're going to bring you on as an advisor or an assistant coach or something like that. And then when Blashill's contract expires, we'll make you head coach officially then?
Absolutely not, because ethically that would be the biggest dick punch to Jeff Blashill. You don't do that and maintain any credibility with your peers as an employer.
Yeah, but Jeff Blashill gets $300,000 if that happens, because that's his out clause. If they don't pick up Jeff Blashill's last year option within a week of the season ending, he gets $300,000, which isn't nothing in the coach's world.
No, it's not nothing, but at the same time, the optics of that might be so poor to the point where it shows publicly how little the Red Wings think of him that they were willing to do that, which might actively affect his next contract and the dollar figures attached to that. So if I'm Blashill, I'd rather get the can now and start looking for my next job and get a jump start on it and not have the guillotine over my head the entire season.
The one thing I can say about Jeff Blashill is that he has some steeled resilience to any kind of league-wide criticism that I have not seen in a coach with his record ever before. And it might be, I don't know. He's well loved by every hockey person in the NHL.
He's a great guy.
No,
as a human, yeah, he's a great dude.
It's not about him as a person. Obviously, he's a great dude. Anyone can see that. It's they talk about things where the Red Wings fans look at his track record in those areas and they're like, developing players. I mean, yeah, some, but not all. Or like they talk about like he's a winner. He's won at every level. And they're like, oh, what about this level? What about the most important level so far? He's made the playoffs once. Or
his team has literally, talent be damned, his team has literally regressed every season. The Red Wings have not, I don't think, improved season to season once under him. And if they did, it was only once.
I feel bad because this newfound indictment of Jeff Blashill, we've already done this whole conversation before. We just have not done it with the flavor of Gerard Gallant is now available as a head coach. We're operating in this conversation is all under the pretext of Gallant is available and he would come to Detroit if asked. That's the pretext. And you have to understand that that's not necessarily the case. In all likelihood, it's probably not the case.
It's the Steven Stamkos all over again. We're going to throw all the money at him and we're going to make him our first line center. We'll even give him number 91. Stammer, you want to come to Detroit? Ha! No.
Didn't even come for an interview.
Yeah, it could be the same damn thing. The only reason I think that there's a pretty good chance, and I'll give Detroit maybe even the highest odds at landing Gerard Gallant if they want, is because of Yzerman.
Yeah.
It's literally his buddy.
I think the operative thing here is more like the more crucial pivot point here isn't whether or not Gallant would want to come. It's whether or not Yzerman would want to make that switch right now.
Yeah.
Again, does Yzerman care about the coaching right now enough? Because I think a reasonable person in a vacuum can say coaching is probably about where I would rank goalies in this rebuild right now, which is like they're important, but it's not what I'm trying to fix right now because both of them are worthless with a bad team. Neither of them are going to win with this team in front of them. Plain and simple. Gerard Gallant won't win with this team in front of him. The best goalie in the NHL at any given moment isn't going to win with this team in front of him. It's just the fact of the matter. It's not about winning all the time, which is why we're having this conversation. But if Yzerman has that thought, then it's not going to happen. If Yzerman doesn't want to do that to Blashill after the whatever assurances he's made to him, it's not going to happen. If Yzerman doesn't think that Gallant is that great of a coach or that much better than Blashill, or he thinks Blashill's actually good, he just hasn't been given a good team, it's not going to happen. There's a million opportunities here as to why it's not going to happen. It's much like the Red Wings lottery odds. Like, sure, the Red Wings might have one of the highest chances of landing Gallant just because of the circumstances, but the odds are it's not going to happen. So that's how we have to approach it. But here we are recording at the dead of night, 10 to 11 p.m., talking about a hypothetical. We have to have Ricard back on the show.
Yeah, please. Can you come in person? We'll just chain him up. We won't let him go.
Yeah. You want to stay in Detroit? Good part of that 8-2 loss. Giovanni Smith, first NHL goal.
Good for him. It was scored when the score was 8-1.
Yeah.
So
it was a really nice tip. I feel really bad for him.
On a deflection and all that, that is about as anticlimactic as a first NHL goal could ever possibly be. So we're sorry, Giovanni.
Other news, Corey Pronman. I feel bad. Both Corey and Max put out prospect ranking articles today, and they just got drowned out. And they're great articles. Notable about Corey Pronman's article.
Trevor Zegras is the best NHL drafted prospect in the world.
That's still a prospect because it doesn't count Jack Hughes, who's a regular NHLer.
Yeah. Zadina didn't count either.
Yeah.
Which was thankfully the hurt of that was mitigated by the fact that Moritz Seider had climbed all the way up to number 6 on his rankings. 6, which was significantly higher than Joe Veleno.
I laughed my ass off when I saw his little blurb about Seider.
Yeah, I was like, Red Wings fans don't talk him at all. Like, he's been doing well if you haven't noticed.
He said, I was debating not writing a Seider profile and just leaving a ranking because nobody's asked me about him all season, so I figured Detroit fans didn't care much about his progression. Which, in case you couldn't tell, is heavy, thick, gooey sarcasm.
As I was reading that, I'm pretty sure my screen started vibrating.
He probably got 11 messages asking about Seider.
And there's very much people who took that statement literally.
Oh, yeah.
And he's getting yelled at for, what do you mean Red Wings fans don't care about Seider? We absolutely care about Seider. We care about him. And then...
Oh, shoot.
Twitch Corey probably playing block.
He ranked his Seider skill set. So skating above average, puck skills above average, physical game elite, hockey sense above average.
Yay! We might have a real defenseman.
For a guy who I thought had Seider at about where I had Seider pre-draft and post-draft, had very similar thoughts about, drafting Seider's fine, but in the face of who else was there, there's some questions to be had. He was a little bit harsher, but that's literally his job, is to be objective, and we have the grace of not having to be as objective. And so for him to put Seider at number 6 really kind of is a good way to validate what we've all seen from Seider this season. Every time I tune in, Seider's had a great, game, big physical game, better defensive play, nice puck movement, good footwork on the blue line. So it was really good to see all of that. Plus, having a guy who's genuinely physically elite. When was the last time the Red Wings had an actual physically elite player who could light players up? It was Nick Kronwall, and he wasn't exactly a big guy. It would be with his Kronwalls, which we all love dearly, but those would only happen so often. So to have Moritz Seider doing that has been really great.
It's worth noting too that the only defenseman he had ahead of Seider in his rankings was Bowen Byram. So according to Corey Pronman, Moritz Seider is his second best defenseman in the world, not playing in the NHL currently.
NHL head coach firing 7, Red Wings wins 5. That just popped up on my Twitter feed again. I can't get over that. Other news, Zach Kassian suspended 2 games.
Yes, much deserved for doing something you can't do in the UFC and punching a guy in the back of the head repeatedly, even though he doesn't want to fight.
His first game back
is against Calgary. You bet your ass I'm watching that game.
I'm going to Alberta to watch that game.
Yeah.
Because flights are terribly cheap. It's negative 50 there right now. Celsius or Fahrenheit, I don't care. It's that cold.
Yep. The NHL deemed Matthew Tkachuk's hits, all of them, to be legal, which is stupid. I loved Kassian's response. Well, now that I know the rule, I accept it. I'm basically reading between the lines. He's saying, I'm glad to know that's legal because I'm going to attempt it.
Oh, yeah. That game, again, it's that good and bad. It's bad because someone's going to get hurt, and that's not good, and something messed up's going to happen. But it's good because entertainment.
Cassian's going to wait till Kachuk skates around the net on one of these plays, and he's going to be standing in the offensive zone or defensive zone, whatever way it's happening. You remember those old Looney Tunes cartoons where the cartoon character would get in position like they're about to run, and then their legs would cock like a shotgun before they took off? Yeah. Cassian might actually do that.
He'll be a wind-up car.
Yeah.
He'll have players he'll wind back with like a bungee cord that players will be holding on either side of the ice. Yeah, it's going to be bad. There's going to be blood. There's going to be fists. And if there's not, shame on you, Alberta. Shame on you.
And Alberta's like the most old school hockey province in Canada. Yeah. Tickets are probably going for more than a Stanley Cup final at this point.
Yeah. Alberta still thinks Tim Hortons is good. That's where they're at. Which, again, no free ads, but that's a counter ad. Tim Hortons, your coffee has turned to garbage.
Everything about Tim Hortons has turned to garbage.
And yet, 4 figures on ice caps. That's why I always laugh when Americans...
I like ice caps objectively. They haven't tasted. I just don't do caffeine, so I barely ever drink it. I'm still so angry that they screwed up their donuts. I'm happy and I'm angry because I'd be morbidly obese if they never did switch it up.
Yeah. It's when you get to a certain age, you can stop. You can't keep eating them like you did when you were a kid.
Yeah, no, I know. I would literally eat half a dozen in a sitting. Mm-hmm. It was bad, but that's because Tim Hortons donuts used to be amazing, and now they're pre-frozen.
They're so
garbage.
Bad. Yeah.
But then again, you go to any of the specialty donut places around here. I'm sorry, I'm not paying $6 for a donut.
That's why I laugh whenever Americans are like, "Oh, we got a Timmy's in our town," and I love it so much. I'm like, wow. I hope they do it differently there because it's genuinely not good.
But what are you comparing it to? Everything's relative, right? From what I've heard about Dunkin' Donuts,
find a coffee. Hey, you want to do something today? Find a brewery. Find a coffee shop in your area. I promise you, they have a really good chance. If you go there and they don't make actual good beer or good coffee, go to another one. That one, statistically speaking, will be better. Just find something that's not generic garbage.
Now, maybe this is just me being a snob, but also if you're walking into these places, don't be poor.
Oh my God.
Every one of these places I've ever gone into is exceedingly expensive.
No, I don't think so. I think there's coffee shops.
They probably exist. I haven't found them yet.
You know what? I will actually say McDonald's coffee is my staple. You just need a quick coffee on the go. Every day you want to pop in or sit in a drive-thru, that's the coffee you get.
Yeah, so you don't spend $18 on a mocha venti frappe bullshitachino from Starbucks?
Okay, you know what? Starbucks, I like everything other than their medium roast.
For what they charge, it better be good.
Their lattes are overpriced, but they are delicious.
Like I said, those fancy donuts that I was referencing earlier are delicious.
I'm
still not paying it
with a green tea latte. I really do.
This is why I'm so happy I don't drink coffee. I could not put this much time, thought, and effort into something so mundane. I couldn't do it.
What?
Trying to figure out what my coffee place is, how I'm going to take it, how much it costs, how many times a day do I need to get it? Do I need to drive out of my way? Oh, they changed the recipe. Can I go there anymore? Oh, Tim Hortons, they're terrible now. We're going to go to McDonald's. Oh, that drive-through line's no, I couldn't do it.
A lot of the little for someone who's pretty happy-go-lucky, a lot of little things stress. Really, that's what's stressing you?
You know why I'm so happy-go-lucky? Because I avoid these things in my life.
Coffee, it's what's saving you.
It might actually be.
So it's not the fact that I read the news every morning and the world is stressing me out. It's the coffee that I'm drinking while I'm doing it.
It can be both.
Oh, shut up.
Who's having a better outlook on life? Me, groggy and half paying attention as I'm reading how awful the world is, or you, fully caffeinated, awake, and alert while reading it? Checkmate, Ryan.
Oh, I hate when Brad makes good points. It's so uncomfortable. He does it in the middle of episodes, and I have to suppress the urge to vomit for another 15 minutes. What a jerk.
Speaking of suppressing vomiting, Knives Out, such a good movie.
I haven't seen it. I need to see it.
Such a good movie.
Still in theaters?
I went this Saturday.
Okay, yeah.
First time, me and Crystal checked. First time we've been to the theater since June.
Sad. Don't have kids.
Yeah, that's the moral of the story today, really.
Great news. Brad Marchand, with the game on the line, overskated the puck in the shootout.
This is why I love that. This is why I love Brad Marchand. Because the NHL needs guys that we can all universally laugh at when stuff like this happens.
And Brad Marchand tweeted a picture of him lifting the cup, which, props to you. You get to do that.
Oh, buddy, that picture immediately made me realize how insecure Marchand is. This stuff gets to him. Brad, no. Nobody. You're...
I don't know. I'd flex a cup ring. A lot.
He does it all the time, though.
Yes, because he can do it.
Dude, he literally called out a guy who responded to him. He he called him a peasant.
Oh, that's bad. Well, you just said don't be poor, so you guys are kind of all Brad's bad? Question mark?
Buddy,
question mark?
I'm allowed to say don't be poor. I'm poor. These are the rules.
Lots of potential titles this episode. Stupid Gallant taking all the the spotlight away because the title of this episode: "Don't be poor, don't have kids."
No, don't be poor, comma, it's okay, I'm poor. There's the episode title.
All Brad's bad? Question mark? Question mark? Rowan's been saying this for a while.
Rowan can't use that joke because I'm Rob.
That's very true. He needs to stay. He can't have his cake.
He can't. Yeah, exactly. He's got to go down one path there.
Philip Forsberg scored another Michigan goal. Another Michigan goal was scored by Philip Forsberg. And yes, I'm calling it the Michigan and not the lacrosse move, even though the lacrosse move is acceptable.
This one was more impressive because of how he picked the puck up. He did it with his toe.
The toe of his blade. That was wild.
And it wasn't like a toe pressure drag. It was a toe scoop.
Yeah. That was nuts. It must be something with his blade, eh? Like, he must know. He must have practiced specifically.
Well, I know how to do that move, but the timing and the pace of it are so ridiculous. You give me 100 attempts at that exact move that Forsberg did, standing still, I'll get it twice. Because I know how to do it. I just physically am not capable of doing it. I don't have the coordination and or the timing. He did it while moving at full speed.
And he was acquired for one Martin Erat. Anyhow, the Washington Capitals re-signed Nick Backstrom for 5 years, $46 million, which is 9.2 a year. Yes. Notable thing about that is he negotiated his own contract.
And he's 30? It's just not bad. That one takes him to what, like 35, 36?
Look, that contract is back pay in my mind. That's the exact same thing they did with Kopitar and Drew Doughty.
And how'd that work out for LA?
Look, you know what?
They got their cups. They're happy. I know, Ryan.
They got their cups. They're happy. And the players are satisfied now because those players could have easily walked and said, hey, you underpaid me for years. And I want you to make good on it. I was going to say it's the same thing as Tavares in the Island, but he never won cups there. So
speaking of how everything revolves around the Red Wings, one of the things that this contract has started in the Capitals Twitterverse is, well, there goes all the money that we would have had for Braden Holtby. So it looks like they're going to let him go.
Yeah, but Braden Holtby is going to command Bobrovsky money. And what we've seen so far is you don't spend $10 million.
I agree. I don't think the Red Wings are going to do it, but we need to brace ourselves for months and months of Red Wings fans talking about it.
Oh, no.
We're going to have to cover it before free agency, Ryan.
And you know it's going to be me bringing it up, too. No.
The only good news is I think we'll be in agreement on this one, so it won't be a long conversation.
Every episode, no.
Yeah. Hi, Braden. No. Hi, you can get Robin Leonard for half the term and half the dollars. You do that.
All right.
Maybe not half the dollars, but
it is 11:05. I want you to be able to sleep at some point tonight.
Not possible.
This episode, we're going to head over to Patreon. It's a midweek episode, which means even when we rush and post the Patreon or the overtime thread late because we were recording sooner than expected, midweek episodes overtime is Patreon exclusive. So let's read out some Oh my God.
How many are there?
You guess.
Enough that I'm leaving. Bye, everybody.
32. I might abbreviate some of these.
No, you're shitting me. There's not 32.
There's more here than when Yzerman got picked up. Do you guys think Red Wings fans
Can
want
you just
Gallant?
do a filter if it includes the word Gallant? We just don't read that one because we've already answered it.
Matthew Keeler says the Red Wings are bad. We could really use any type of fun. I'm in this we need anything fun mindset after the 8-2 slaughter. Would adding alternative third jersey be fun or just blasphemy since it's the Wings or something else the Red Wings can do? Hashtag oh fuck we lost Terry.
Rowan's with me on this one. Bring back the barber pole.
Yes, third jersey.
Barber pole.
Jacob Charlip says, hey guys, new Patreon member. Here's the first comment. Jacob, thank you so much for becoming a patron. We really appreciate you and welcome to the Dub Dub family. He says, love the pod and happy to finally officially be part of the Wingville podcast family. Saw an Athletic article mentioning some of the greatest names they've ever seen and it got me thinking, what would be the top 2 or 3 games that come to mind as the best you've watched? As I'm too young to remember 97, 98 cups, I would have to say 08 Game 6 or 2010 USA Canada gold medal. I have 3. 02 gold medal, 2010 gold medal, Game 7 2002 Stanley Cup finals or Stanley Cup conference finals.
Okay. So obviously this isn't Red Wing specific. I'll double down on the 2010 gold medal game. I'm going to go off the board with two of these. Neither of them are Red Wings. They're all international. I'm going to stay that way just for the theme. 2009 World Junior Semifinals, Canada, Russia. And 2014 Olympic gold medal game, women's hockey.
Oh, good game.
That was such a game.
That game was wild.
Overtime alone was insane.
The Canadian, it was Canada-Sweden that year in the finals for the men.
Yep. And that game was just Canada dominating.
Canada dominated the whole tournament.
Nyquist hit the post like in the first few minutes into the game for Sweden, and then it was just Canada from there.
But that women's final was like, you could not have scripted better hockey.
It was chaos.
Ivan Beckner says Brad Marchand confirms he's been an angry Redditor this whole time. Antonio Gracia says, shout out to the three of you for busting your butts to get us content sooner after a shocking news break. I know you guys will have talked about Gallant to death, so I just want to say thanks for pushing this out sooner than usual to all of us. Love the content and hard work you lot do, and I just want to voice my appreciation. We appreciate that, Antonio. Even Evan, who is skiing. Haroon Khan says, hey guys, first I just wanted to say thanks for being a platform where I can say or rant about these Red Wings. Living in Leaf Country is a real pain in the ass. I was trying to get my girlfriend to become a Red Wings fan, and man, was I close, but that Islander game did a number on my efforts. Oh yeah, you hold it back right now.
Yeah, no. Now you just lie and tell her stories about games that didn't happen.
Show her the old Red Wings.
Yeah, YouTube's a hell of a thing.
After that last game, I'm fully done with Abdelkader and Blashill. Both of them got to go. I really think the hockey gods did us a favor after watching last night's game by getting Gallant canned and giving us the opportunity to salvage whatever positives we can from this terrible, historically bad, horrendous, and crappy season. Blashill kept saying, we've just got to get better every goddamn post-game interview as if it's a new revelation. It's so irritating, and I'm sick and tired of him rolling out Abby for no reason instead of a guy who can potentially be something in Perlini. If Barry Trotz can make the Islanders good, why can't we just be respectable? Why can't we lose with some self-respect? I get it's a rebuild, but this is going to drive people away from the team and also the players. I get Yzerman is a great GM, but keeping Blash could make it harder for him to sign of our own guys and players in free agency. Might sound unreasonable, but I just want a coach who can come in and make us respectable. I would keep going, but I'll give Ryan a break. Thanks again, guys. Sighs deeply. Let's go Red Wings. K. Stangy says, what was better, the picture of sad Marchand after they lost in the playoffs last year? B, the whiff heard around the hockey world as that rat-faced bastard couldn't pick up the puck during the shootout? C, all of the above, because seriously, Ferk that guy. Oh, it'll have to be C.
It's going with C. Funny that someone referenced Ferk this episode.
Marty Ferk liked one of Brad's tweets.
And it wasn't a nice tweet about the Red Wings. So I don't know how to take that.
It was, you would trade every defenseman short of Phil Hronek for...
I said I would trade the entire Red Wings D corps minus Hronek for Kasperi Kapanen, and Martin Ferk liked that tweet. So I don't know how to take that. That was me literally saying these 6 guys are worth that one guy.
Lonnie Zone says, it's got to be the wheelhouse. That's a great name for this room. I love it. I remember that. Oh, you didn't bring the jersey.
Buddy, how many times are you going to get me to bring something when you message me when I'm already at work coming straight here after?
I remember the first time I heard that term, and it was in a Shanahan interview explaining how Brett Hull made him a better shooter on the Blues at that time, but no biggie. It's just too perfect. Also, I think Brad was onto something with the Wings playing Hronek on the left side, but not necessarily to draft Drysdale. Seems like Hronek and Sider complement each other's games perfectly, potentially making their line greater than the sum of their parts. Anyhow, just a thought. Man, I hope Sider gets a call up soon. Thanks for all you guys do, our blessed patriarchs of the Dub Dub family. That's actually a very interesting point. Andrew Bohan says, Sup Dub Duds, comic relief question. Would you rather shit in your hands and clap or be a Jeff Blashill during the Islanders game? Oh, I'm sorry. Anybody who's making a coach's salary is not getting any pity from me.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Rowan said the exact same thing. He's now going to accuse me of stealing what he said.
There you go.
Stay fresh cheese bags. Great for holding broken dreams. Giving up on hockey being fun. Just store those dreams away like you've been doing for years now. Guaranteed to hopefully be fresh later in the decade when this is all funny, when we're over how much this sucked. Moritz Kuhlman says, hey guys, I got a question for you. Say you would pick a full team out of only number 1 overall picks and let that team play against a team consisting of every other player ever. Who would win? This might be too complex for overtime, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for all the work you guys are doing.
players who were not number one overall picks. Wayne Gretzky, Gordie Howe, Steve Yzerman, Bobby Orr. I think I know what team I'm going with.
Yeah. Garrett TV says, Hockey Amigos, the internet is melting down from the pace of people typing out the phrase, oh my God, hire Gallant now. What gives? I know he's a former wing and a good old boy who Yzerman hired to assist Canada once, but can anyone speak to what is about him or his coaching style that makes us think he'd be a good replacement for Blash, who I'm not a fan of, by the way? He's had a mediocre coaching history, got canned after unexpected successes and subsequent regression, is now much of the same with Vegas. IMO, he's only really shown that he can surprise, but never really that he has some sort of differentiator that we should be pursuing, and his former team replaced him with a guy that we could have had for the past couple of months. On top of that, everyone knows he's a total old school asshole. Hashtag okay boomer. Can we move on and stop hoping for quick fixes to our long-term problems? Okay, that's all of that is a fair counterpoint to everything that we've said, and something that we should, like, Red Wings fans and us have to consider.
Yeah, we didn't bother deep diving into his systems this episode, but the summation of that is he plays a very fast, up-tempo, aggressive style, which suits today's NHL perfectly.
We didn't give that thought, like Garrett, we didn't give that platform a lot of conversation on this episode, but we will in the future. There is valid arguments to what you said. So you'll probably be in the minority of Red Wings fans at the moment because of who he's up against, but those are fair criticisms. Logan Gillies says, what's up, Brad and Ryan? New patron here. Thank you, Logan, and welcome to the Dub family. Been listening for a couple of years now, so frick me for not signing up earlier, but hey, whatever. The question is, do you think we should have kept Mrazek? I guess maybe it wouldn't have mattered given the state of defense who's been in net.
I still very much disagree with it because he was younger and at the time at least equally talented. And ties should always go to the younger player when you're in a situation like the Red Wings.
I've always been in favor of keeping Mrazek. Yeah, he's had his up and downs, and by no means has he been a stalwart in net at all times, but wouldn't it be nice to have him now? You know? Although there's a reasonable chance that you say he never would be developed because he needed a lot of mental reinforcement. In this team, when you get shelled with like 17 high danger shots a period, you don't get that as a goalie. Mike Lennox says, at this point, with so many players skipping the All-Star game, will it take something negotiated in the CBA to change this trend? I think that is something that will happen. That's a good point.
They have to change a lot with the All-Star game. They have to basically start from scratch on it because the fans don't care. The players don't care. If they folded the All-Star game, I wouldn't care.
Let's move back up here. I accidentally scrolled down. Also, it seems that the All-Star game is nothing like it was before. Can they recapture the relevance of what it once had? I don't think it'll ever be like the old days.
It isn't. I think you can fix the skills competition, but players just aren't as competitive as they used to be. They played for pride back then. They wanted to win. It meant something to them. Now they don't care. Not that they necessarily should. I'm not like dumping on the new generation. These goddamn millennials are ruining the All-Star game now. Mm-hmm. But it's true.
Willow1771 says, first time commenter, day one listener. Oh my God. Day one. Thank you.
Sorry.
Both of those things. And welcome to the Dub family, although you've been part of it. Still remember occasionally posting on your Reddit thread. I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you because you're so dedicated to the content you make. I get to enjoy a great show each week. I've also joined a podcast of my own. Hashtag no free ads. Your show has, along with a few others, been a reason as to why I want to be a content creator. Keep up the great work. Hashtag Winged Wheel Podcast. Hashtag Let's Go Red Wings. That is amazing, Willow. Thank you. Shoot us a DM. I'd love to listen. Matt Cheney says, hey boys, D-Boss good, Phillips are good, Toozy good, Handsome Y-Man good, Wheel Team bad, Existence is pain, please make it stop. They did it, they broke me. I have just one question, Dub, when will it stop? April, I don't know, 11th? What's the end of the season?
When's the draft lottery? Because we'll either be talking extensively about how good Lafreniere is or why all the players available to at number 4 are still really good.
Great content as always, boys. I'll be sleeping until the draft lottery. Sean Chavarella says, so the last defenseman the Wings had was worth something was Nick Jensen. Now he was a late bloomer and didn't crack the lineup until 2017, 8 years after he was drafted. Now Detroit's in a great position to have 2 defensemen in Hronek and Seider who are able to play at an elite level and contribute. My question is, what defenseman in the system do you think is most likely to be a late bloomer?
Okay, I'm going to qualify this by not counting Antti Tuomisto because that is the very obvious answer to this one based on everything. They drafted him to be the slow developer. I'm going to say Albert Johansson. He is has all the tools to be a good offensive defenseman, but hasn't started producing the points as of yet, even though he is playing in the SHL, Sweden's top league. So I'm going to go with him.
That's a fair answer, and I'm going to say I can't give you another answer without just making something up for the sake of making it up, because I think Nick Jensen is not a common occurrence.
No, he's not. I'm assuming like a Johansson will break through at 23, not 27.
I love my NFC Championship bound Packers. God damn it. Says, would you rather be a boomer or a zoomer? I don't know, Brad. What's it like to be a boomer?
I don't know what a zoomer is.
Yeah.
A Gen Z.
I don't know. I'd rather be a boomer. They own homes.
Technically speaking, I'm a millennial. Millennial starts in what, 85?
Does it?
I think so. Technically. I'm just ruining everything.
Rowan says, good day, duds. Seeing as the medieval warrior team are panicking, we clearly need to get Stevie on the phone with GM to manufacture another trade that benefits us immensely. Please come up with some ideas that are heaps good. Hashtag save fresh cheese bags.
Oh, I like this.
Luke Glendenning for a first.
Do they have their first? They've traded a lot of picks.
We probably have it. Someone asked me, would you trade Fabry for the first, second, and third that we got for Tatar? And I was like, yeah.
Are you high? Of course.
Yeah, 100%. That was a wild trade.
Very few players on the Red Wings I wouldn't make that trade for.
Yeah. Jethro E says, if the Wings don't hire Gallant, then my disappointment will be immeasurable and my day will be ruined, which frankly is pretty similar to a standard game day as a Wings fan this season, so I guess status quo. Come on, Stevie, hire this good old Canadian booty. Beauty. Pff, oh boy, is it late. Stay fresh.
It's your beauty. It's your booty.
Stay Fresh Cheese Bags of Fournier Company says, bum womp. Worst game of the season. Harder on the Fire Blashill train than ever before. I'll give him credit for calling a timeout after the second Isles goal and lighting up the entire bench. He was beat red and screaming at the top of his lungs. It was the most passionate fire I've ever seen from him. Then it's like it had no effect. We all saw how it ended. Can't fault Howard and Pickard. It would have been worse. Or it could have been worse. So bring in Gallant now. That is, if he'll even come here, and if Calgary or Dallas don't swoop in and take him over their interim coaching guys. Otherwise, put Disco Dan in charge for the rest of the season until Lane Lambert can be interviewed, or hold out for Ricard Gronberg if the ZSC Lions allow him to interview and then release him from his contract. You guys have talked about losing the right way. That is not what's happening right now. I'd rather see them lose 3-2 or 2-1 than get slaughtered each night. Confidence and morale are still part of development, and right now it's a detriment. Todd Bertuzzi said two things I agree with. First, the effort is there, but it's the follow through that lacks. Defensive plays break down, and our team just stands around expecting the puck to be in the net until it finally does. Props to Bowie for Team Defensive Player of the Year. Need to see more of those. As for everyone else, they've got to channel their efforts into defensive awareness instead of planting their feet and watching the pucks go in the net. Second thing, the Red Wings have been dunking on the league for over 25 years. Now all these teams are lining up to get theirs while the getting's good. Have you seen the second half schedule? Unless they go through a string of playoff bound and hopeful teams benching regulars and starting backups, things are about to get much more difficult. Man, the Red Wings have been losing the backups for the past 2 seasons.
My favorite, I don't know where I saw this, but it said the Red Wings had the hardest strength of schedule left in the NHL, and someone responded, well, yeah, of course, they're the only team in the NHL that doesn't get to play the Red Wings.
Yeah. It's so sad. Congrats to Giovanni Smith on his first NHL goal, to Madison Bowie for stepping up his play, and to Dylan Larkin for extending his point streak. Thank you, fellas, for the difficult responsibility of shepherding an antsy portion of the fan base. It's not easy what you fellas do, but certainly appreciated. Now, time for some levity. Time for the Franz Nielsen trade game. Find a trade, any trade, a contract, pick, or a bucket of rusty skate blades and moist cups. Or would you rather choose to slide bare ass down a razor blade into a pool of iodine? Stay Fresh cheese bags were over the hump. Iodine, because apparently there's a nuclear threat, and I heard that helps.
I'm upset that I even had to have that visual.
Any trade with Franz Nielsen has to be accompanied with a second round pick going the other way, or you have to catch a crazy GM on a good day.
Or you take a bigger but shorter term bad contract in return.
Matt Balker says, hey, you squids, was reading about how Ferraro thought a captain for Daly and Bernier trade was actually possible. And then I saw how Elvis Merzlikins is doing for Columbus with no real solid goalie prospects in the pipeline. Would this be a trade worth pursuing? Say Athanasiou and Bernier for Elvis and possibly a defensive piece and or a first round pick. Everyone in Columbus is injured, and per cap friendly, they have their first round pick for the next 3 years. Also can't wait for the next Oilers Flames game. Reminds me of the old Avs Wings rivalry back when it meant something. Cheers, boys. Keep up the good work and never forget Terry.
2 things. Columbus isn't giving up any more draft picks because, oh my God, they've had none. And 2, Merzlikins might be a surprise to the rest of the NHL. He is not a surprise to Columbus fans. They've known he was coming for a while, and they're not surprised he's good.
Advanced Water says all-star jerseys, but instead of team logos, they use the mascots. Discuss.
Yes.
Badass.
I would buy a gritty all-star jersey.
I'd buy a Red Wings Alley Octopus jersey.
That goes without saying, but I would also get a gritty.
Connor Layton says, hey, fellas, at a time like this, my only question is, what's your go-to drink when the Red Wings are losing 8-1? Asking for a friend. Also, go Pack Go. Damn it, Connor.
Bleach.
Yeah. Honestly, wine is a happy drunk, so if you're into that. Or depending on where you live, either in Canada, anywhere in Canada, or some states, there's a different solution.
Just avoid beer and any mixer with pop because the bloating, you're going to need a lot of them, so...
Shay says, hey boys, I was thinking about what led me to the wonderful game of hockey. It was all because of NHL Face-Off 98 for the original PlayStation. Even remember the first goal I scored in the game. Doug Brown on a slapper from just inside the red line. Assist from Bob Roos and Jamie Pusher. The glory days, eh? I also remember spending a lot of time making trades, starting out with a player who had a low overall and trading him for a player that was rated a point or 2 higher until I ended up with Paul Correa type player. And also not knowing how to properly pronounce names. Imagine reading the name Jaromir Jagr just as it looks. What are your earliest hockey memories that you guys have, whether real life or video game? Brendan Shanahan scoring was, I think, the first goal I remember. Against the Whalers, I believe. Anyways.
I have flashes like, for whatever reason, I remember the 93 conference finals between LA and Toronto very vividly. I remember Detroit getting bounced by San Jose in 94 and in the Cup finals in 95. Pretty vividly. So yeah, those are the ones that immediately come to mind. I was at a Red Wings Leafs game at Maple Leaf Gardens. I want to say around 93, 94. I remember pretty well.
I was 0 years old. I was born at the end of 1993, November.
So yeah, the 93 playoffs. Remember, you didn't exist yet. Well, you existed. You were still inside.
Oh, okay. Adam Flett says, not sure if you've covered it, but lots of Georgiev talk. Just quickly on other goalies, why not Matt Murray or Jerry in a trade, or even Demko/DiPietro? Both Pens in Vancouver could use Athanasiou, and we get a goalie a better note than what's currently in the pipeline. Anyways, hope all's well in the wheelhouse and stay fresh. Am I crazy for preferring a pick to a goalie?
Yeah. No. I would. I'd rather the pick. Vancouver's going to wait to see what happens with Markstrom in free agency to figure out what they do with Demko, because if Markstrom boogies, then obviously they need Demko. DiPietro I'm not actually super high on, so that would be a pass from me. And Matt Murray.
I would love Jerry, but Matt Murray.
Yeah, and Jari ain't going anywhere.
Jari, right? Not Jerry?
Jari. Yeah, and I'm also personally offended you called him Bob Roos and not Bob Rouse.
Did I not say Rouse?
You said Roos, I think.
Oh.
I'm upset.
I'm sorry.
It upset me when you said it.
I'm sorry. I actually thought I said Rouse.
Oh, maybe
I know him. I don't know him, but I know the name.
I'm tired. There's a good chance I just wasn't listening.
Let's just pretend we're both right. Kyle Thomas says, hey guys, still loving the podcast with John Cooper, the longest tenured coach in the NHL. Statistically, he should be available in the next couple of years, especially if Tampa doesn't produce. What's your thoughts on him being a target for Yzerman, and how could he help Detroit? Second question, Larkin and the Wings 4th overall draft pick for 1st overall. God, no.
Larkin and 4th overall for 1st?
No. No, Brad. No. Athanasiou in 4th for 1st? Sure.
I'm just trying to think, like, his Larkin isn't Lafreniere.
Would you go Mantha in 4th for 1st?
I really like Lafreniere. Okay, if the top 3 like goes how I think it will, I would consider it, but if Raymond drops, definitely no.
Could you confidently say that not only will Alexis Lafreniere definitely be the best player in his entire draft class, but by a whole Dylan Larkin better than the next guy?
He's definitely going to be the best.
By a whole Dylan Larkin better?
Probably not.
Brad, come on.
Probably not. But man, this is a league that needs...
Who's the Dylan Larkin equivalent? Same age, same kind of production, same potential in the league. Like, that's in the league right now.
Dylan Larkin.
Who's an equivalent? Name someone who you value as much.
As a Dylan Larkin, I don't know. Larkin's a unique guy. There's
not a lot of him.
There's not a lot of Larkins. I don't know. He's like in that second tier. Barzal, maybe.
Would you, if you had first overall, would you take fourth overall in Barzal for first overall?
I really like Lafreniere. I probably would, but I really like Lafreniere. Here's the thing. I'm on the believer you're not going to win anything unless you have a true game breaker, and Detroit doesn't have one right now in the system or on the team. Lafreniere is that guy. Raymond could be that guy. Stützle could be that guy, but I wouldn't bet on them being that guy.
Kyle, you're right about John Cooper, but I think there might be a situation here where Yzerman says, yeah, I would love to go for Cooper, but Gallant's available now. Dylan Krill says, hey guys, which Red Wing past or present do you want to interview the most, and what would be your first question? Brendan Shanahan's my favorite player of all time, but it still would be Steve Yzerman.
Yeah, it is Yzerman. It will always be Yzerman, and I just want to know who he's taking in the draft.
I would love Gordy too. Gordy would be great.
You know what? I don't even want who he's taking. Stevie, just give me your list 1 through 4.
For Gordy, I would want to know who's the weakest son of a bitch you've ever played in the league. Just trash on someone. Chris Smith says, in the shadow of the big coaching news last night, Bruce Boudreau forgot to list a 6th defender on the lineup, so Patterson had to leave the ice and Donato came down from the press box after warm-ups to play. Bruce is one-of-a-kind guy. Is that real? I didn't even hear about that.
When they accidentally had 5 defensemen because they healthy scratched the 6th guy. Yeah.
My son was having a meltdown while I was listening to the last episode, and Spotify played a much older episode after it finished. During the episode, I heard the name I hadn't in a while, Alexei Marchenko. Oh man, remember when we used to argue about Alexei Marchenko?
That's us and Madison Bowie right now.
It all came back.
Who had the defensive play of the year on Tuesday, pulled one right off of the goal line at the last millimeter.
It all came back to me being excited about a young defenseman, him being placed on waivers, the Leafs claiming him, and then him scoring on us later that season. At the time, I thought he had some sort of trade value, and I was so pissed he was placed on waivers. Kind of him again now. Hell, he could arguably be a top 4 defenseman on this version of the Wings, but so could 50-something-year-old Chris Chelios. But Marchenko ended up going back to the KHL after that season, and probably still would have if he stayed at the Wings. Still just made me more thankful for Stevie, as I'll always consider this a dumb move by Ken Holland. So what was your least favorite trade or roster move Ken Holland ever made? Hashtag thank Ferk, we lost Holland.
Ken Holland?
The Yarncroc deal bothers me still to Nashville.
I'm going to say 2 words and you're going to immediately agree with me. Kyle Quincy.
Oh, yeah. Because
we lost Vasilevsky in theory in that trade.
Yeah, you know what? You're objectively right, and that's the easy answer, but one that's underrated is the Yarncroc deal. Yarncroc's no slouch, and I like him a lot.
Dude, all of his deadline deals sucked. The Zidlichky trade sucked. The Eric Cole trade sucked. The David Legwand trade sucked. He needed to have his phone taken away from him every trade deadline.
That's that. There's going to be plenty more about Gerard Gallant in the future.
Hopefully not. Hopefully they're exciting him tomorrow, and then we just have one more episode to talk about it, and then we get to go on with our misery.
Thank you all for tuning in, and I'm glad we were able to get this episode out to you late. It'll probably be posted past midnight by the time it's up. We'd like to thank all of our listeners, all of our sponsors, Arjun Shankar, I love my NFC Championship bound Packers, Andrew Bohan, he told me and I forgot. Scott Martin, Kayla Thompson, Mitchell Shinkowski, Aaron Taylor, Jacob Turner, Matt McKay, Matthew M. Rice, Luke Johnson, Mike Reed, Ryan Lewis, Langabeer, Clayton Van Dyken, Kaylin Wood, Hassam Al-Qassem, Arjun Shankar, Charlie Elkins, Hannah Lee, Sean Levine, Connor Leightonen, Danny Jr., Craig Kibble, Rob Thiel, Simon Anderson, John Evans, Kay Waz, and Stan Olson. Love you all. Thank you. And may your wildest coaching dreams come true.
Excuse me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockey Town Evan.